to the run home. We're live from the SEN studios here at Optus Stadium. Mitch Duncan joins the Eagles. Sam Draper tells the Bombers he's out. Josh Rochelle is available for the Crows, and Perth re-signs some of their big-name waffle stars. Big show coming your way. Dom Sheed's going to join us. If you've got a question for Dom Sheed, we spoke a lot about the Dockers yesterday. If you want to ask Dom a question, now is the time. Kim Dillon is going to join us from South Australia, ahead of the big final. It is Adelaide taking on Hawthorn, and Jimmy Williams a bit later in the show as well. But we want you to get involved. You can join in any time on the text machine, 0487 736 736. So much news around, a lot of injury news. No Lockie Neal, we know that for the Brisbane Lions. At Gold Coast, they've been given a clean bill of health. They are looking strong going towards the Q Clash. Kelsha Deer, he will miss with a hamstring, but Mitch Lewis kicked 4 goals in the VFL. That's a pretty good replacement. Josh Rochelle, as I said, available to return from his knee injury. Some concerns over Brodie Myercheck for the Collingwood Football Club with a toe injury, and Jeremy Howe and Bobby Hill both in the mix to return. Is it the right call for Bobby Hill? We'll get to that throughout the show. But all thanks to Host Plus. That's a plus. Dom Sheed in the house, as he is every second Tuesday. Dom, welcome to you.
Thanks for having me, mate. It's good to be back after a bit of a break.
What sort of break? Even more husky today, of course. You've been away on a footy trip.
Yeah, we went to Phuket, Thailand. That was never been there before. That was good fun.
Bit of an experience, I bet.
Yeah, it was. But I'm here and I'm alive, mate. So it's all good.
All the boys behaved themselves. We haven't heard any news.
Yeah, no news is good news. But the boys went well.
Best on ground, anybody?
Jack Williams, best on
Jack
ground
Williams.
for mine. Yeah,
right.
He was outstanding. So all the boys were good. It was good to get away for a few days, and we're back into it now.
How long until they start again? Of course, you don't have to go back. You'd be pretty happy with that. But they've already had a few weeks off. Of course, what is it now? They get 8 to 10, or is it 10 weeks mandatory?
10, depending where you finish, but 10 to 12. And we generally only get 2 weeks off doing absolutely nothing, and then you're into your off-season program which ramps up. So everyone thinks you get 12 weeks of, just relaxing, but, your program takes up half your week as is. So
do you have to prove your program that you've done it, either sending in GPS information and the like?
No. So no contacts allowed unless the player wants to contact, which they generally do because, we're professionals and we get it done. But at the end of the day, in this competition, you get found out pretty quickly if you haven't done your program, and that comes day one with the time trials and the strength testing, and it's pretty easy to tell.
First week of the finals. Who do you like after the first week from this point?
Oh, I said it from the start, Hayes. I'm liking Collingwood. They've got another home prelim. They got it done in a good match. But, there were a couple good games going on. Who are you liking?
I like Geelong.
Geelong?
I think they're cherry ripe, Geelong. Their game, you can't scout Geelong. Like, you go in, you don't know where their good players are going to play. Bailey Smith will go wing, half forward. On the inside, Holmes will start at half-back, then he'll go on the inside. They've got taggers. They've got 2 taggers in their team that they can roll onto midfielders or forwards like we saw with Cam Rayner. They're just doing it very different, and it's amazing that all the other clubs aren't following too closely because they have been the most successful. Can you believe their record? I think it's now 14 prelims of 19.
Yeah, they're coached unbelievably, and they've managed their list really well, haven't they, to stay up there for so long. It's impressive. But, he'd have to go down as one of the greatest coaches ever.
Well, he needs more premierships, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got the one, doesn't he?
2.
Yeah, 2 premierships.
He got the one on the back end of Bomber Thompson in 2011, straight after he sort of walked away from the football club, and then 2022. So for all that success, only 2. I think to go down as the all-time great, maybe 3, but he's unbelievable.
Well, he's in with a chance now. But, I thought it was going to be a year where we saw a couple different teams right up the top. Gold Coast, Freo were flying and, GWS going well again. And then now we've got Geelong and Collingwood back in home prelims again. So we've got a good couple weeks coming up.
Finals footy, what's your experience of what happens in finals footy that separates it from home and away games? Is it much different?
Yeah, obviously higher stakes, more pressure, bigger build-up. You never know. You don't know when your season's going to finish at this point. So you sort of have those thoughts. And you generally, this time of the year, you're in a really good groove with playing and performance, and your role in the team, and not much changes midweek with training and everything. It's just on game day, it just goes up another level again. So
why is it more congested? Like we talk about that, it's more contested, in terms of contested possession, where throughout the year sometimes you'll have some more open games.
Yeah, it's very hard to have 24 of those games in a row, right, where they are like that. But when everything's on the line, it's if one goes all in, takes a couple extra steps in, and it gets tight. And there's no easy kicks in finals. That's what I've learned. So I found that out very early on in my career. So it's going to be an interesting few weeks. But contested footy, it's so big in finals footy.
The adjustment, we saw Gold Coast obviously do all right in their first final. We saw Adelaide struggle, and you mentioned your first final. I'm assuming it didn't go too well. Is it easy the next week, if you get the second chance, to then say, right, I've got a good understanding, now I'm ready to go for week 2?
Yeah, do you mean if they've won?
If they've been poor. Yeah. So there was a few Adelaide players that were poor. Yeah. Do you think they'll put in a better performance second up?
Yeah, I think it's very much easier for a whole team to rebound than it is maybe an individual. I don't know. I can't speak for any individuals on how they prepare and deal with the mental demons leading in to another final off the back of a poor week. But as a team, when you have a poor week in finals, it's generally you get good clarity very early in the week about what went wrong and what you're going after. And because it's finals, everything goes up another level. The playing group, you go so hard at fixing what went wrong that you generally bounce back quite well, or you're very clear the next week anyway as a team.
What about that game, Fremantle and Gold Coast? I know you didn't get a chance to see it. You're at the club, best and fairest. There's been a lot of talk about this best and fairest. I want to clear the air. Was there a loud cheer, like an over-the-top cheer, when the Fremantle Dockers lost or the Gold Coast Suns won?
Yeah, well, I heard there was a bit of a murmur. I didn't even realise the game was going on. I was caught up in conversation, a couple beers deep, but no, I think that got overplayed a bit, Hayes.
Yeah.
I think it did get overplayed a bit. There were a few strong words spoken, but if anyone in the room that night, it definitely wasn't a big, loud cheer.
It might be different now that you're retired. When I retired, more than happy for West Coast to be successful. Clearly, I want Fremantle to have more success than West Coast, but clearly you don't want Fremantle to win if you're West Coast right now. That's just the rivalry that we have in this state.
Yeah, it's a two-team town, so we don't hate each other, but we also both want to be the best team in the town. And reality is we've got a lot of work to do. We're at our best and fairest, and they're playing footy. So that's where we're at and where they're at. But they were stiff. They were stiff to get done. It was a great game of footy, albeit didn't see a whole heap of it, but watching it back, those last couple minutes, so important.
You should have seen the midfield battle. You'll love that. It was just toe to toe, no run withs, and the best players that I think close to our best players in the comp were going head to head for the whole game. Young had 27, Brayshaw, Sarong 32 and 34. Then you had Anderson and Rao, and it was just centre clearances a premium and players coming out the front of them, Dom. As a midfield purist, I reckon you would have loved it.
Oh yeah, that battle. Looking at that on paper, looked like it was going to be an awesome one. But I saw today, Caleb Sarong was the first player to have 35 disposals, 20-plus contested, 10 clearances, 10 inside 50s in a final.
700 metres gained for Caleb Sarong's a lot, and Anderson had 700.
Yeah, it's very impressive. So, I love when teams go head-to-head and just go, you know what, let's see who's better. And it sounds like that's what happened. And it seemed like a pretty even battle. There wasn't much in it the whole day, was there? So Gold Coast got over the line, they move on, and they'd be pretty happy that they're playing at the Gabba this week, won't they?
Absolutely, mate. Beats going to the MCG, travelling back and going to the MCG. So a big win for them. Just on tagging, why are we seeing Geelong do it, and why don't we see more clubs do it? Is it so disruptive to what you're trying to do with team defence?
It can be. If you're not all on the same page in the midfield, you can definitely have the tagged player mess around with the opposition structure, and, you can't have everything. So if you want to take something away from a midfield, then you're going to have to give up something else, and it could be a bit of balance or whatever it is. But there's a lot of tricks that get played out there, and some teams are really good at tagging, some are not, some just don't like doing it. And, I don't have a personal preference whether to tag or not to tag. It really doesn't impact my view on how teams should go about it. But yeah, I mean, it's hard. We had Mark Hutchings do it. He did it really well.
So he was almost a full shutdown role where you've got,
yeah.
Well, even at Geelong, they are full shutdown. They're not like two-way runners.
Yeah. I mean, we've had, Elliot Yeo who have gone head-to-head with players in the stoppages, but then we've had Mark Hutchings who will run everywhere around the ground. We had Nathan Vardy do it, a few times.
Is that right?
As a ruckman. Yeah, he used to do it to Brodie Grundy, Max Gawn.
I just thought that would just be playing on the opposition ruck.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, but they tend not to do that after the ruck contest. Personal preference, but yeah, Geelong going about it in a different way and it's proved successful over the years.
Hayes, a fun fact from Waitley Show today. Since the introduction of a pre-finals bye, the percentage of top four sides who go out in straight sets has gone from 9% to 34%. That's from Greg in Mindari. And the reason for that is, I think, is the reset period where you get a bit of time, get your list really healthy, and then you've only really got to get it up for 1 week, don't you? And you can have some of those upsets. What do you think this week? Do you think we'll see any straight sets action with Brisbane or the Adelaide Crows?
Look, I think Adelaide are the ones that are possibly. They both are. Both gettable. Yeah, for sure. Can't say no to that. Gold Coast are flying, and yeah.
Could both miss out, couldn't they?
Yeah, I know. Both after really good seasons. You'd hate to see it, but it's got to happen, doesn't it?
Guys, as both of you are midfielders, what do you think of doubling the size of the centre circle at bounce downs? My take is it would open up the play. Lots of goals from centre square while the 6-6 rule is in place. So what would increasing the centre circle do? Because obviously the players have to be outside of that. It gives more leeway and run-up for the ruck, but I think that's why they made it smaller, because the rucks were too physical against each other and it was becoming dangerous.
I mean, what you're going to find is just going to be a race to take the first 3 steps into the circle. Once it's up, the ball only goes so high and the ruckman can only hit it so far. I like the idea of trying to open it up, but I think with what they've done with the 6-6-6 rule, we've seen how big an impact that centre bounces have had on and how important they are.
And it has made a big difference. I love watching the centre clearances now. You really get some clear ones. So I never played with the 6-6-6. And, you had the wing flying in. You had a half forward at both ends flying in. The early part of your career, you would have experienced that. I'm not sure I would have been that good with now the space available, because I think speed is paramount too in the middle of the ground.
Yeah, so to answer your question, Hayes and I know if it's going to increase the speed of the game. But, we used to do, I think it was only in 2018, we used to do we used to call it the double shotgun off the back of the square.
Yeah.
And you'd have 2 half forwards start at the back and rip through, or you do the opposite. And, there were all sorts of tricks that teams were playing. And the 6-6-6 has really, just allowed the midfielders and the centre bounce crew to shine or get found out.
How was the best and fairest? Good vibe in the room. Very tough year for West Coast. We know Liam Baker took it out. There wasn't many surprises in the top 10 for mine.
Yeah, no, there wasn't at all, especially in the top 3 with Bakes, Reuben and Harley. So those 3 had really good years. Really glad to see Harley finish top 3. That good reward for the effort he put in throughout the year. But yeah, Bakes comes as no surprise. B&F's, it was a good night, absolutely a good night, albeit, reality is we won 1 game of footy, so it was a disappointing season, but, we did play some good parts there for a bit, and we just didn't do it for long enough to get the wins on the board, but, we'll gear up again and spend time together on the weekend and get going again. But, yeah, it was a good night, mate. Always is.
What's your gut feel? Liam Baker, best and fairest, captain at the end of the year. Liam Duggan, 3rd time in a row he won the Best Clubman Award, which is terrific. So you got 2 guys that I think are going to be in a pretty good contest to be the captain next year. How do you see it playing out?
I think it can really go to anyone. Like, we'll do our vote once again and it'll come down to the players. But, the fact it's even a conversation shows that we've got other strong leaders at the football club which can step up if the boys opt to vote for him. So that's a good sign.
Daily beers and ideas, all thanks to Traveller. Beer for the country, actually Australian owned. So this is when you're going to come up with an idea. When you're having a few beers, normally, you come up with something good, something genius. I want to start with you. What do West Coast need? And we do have a text message coming through that has triggered this. It says, Hayes, would you mind asking Dom if he thinks West Coast should draft a ruckman or two midfielders this year? That's Tristan from Claremont. So there's a ruckman early, Cooper Duff-Tytler, young ruckman, Luke Jackson type, they're saying. But we know West Coast need a bit of depth in the midfield. What's your thoughts on what West Coast need to do throughout the off-season?
I think just add the best talent, especially in the early round, the round one, of the draft. I think you're just taking best available, aren't you? I don't think we're necessarily in a position now to be drafting for positions, especially with the high picks that we have. I would have thought that you use one or two of them or all of them to get some more young talent in.
Potentially split?
Oh, possibly, yeah. I'd have no idea what they're thinking, but I do think, young talent, best available, especially early on. And then after that, wherever they say they need to fill gaps.
Give us your thoughts. What's your idea on West Coast of what they need to do to bring in some talent, whether that be through the draft or through the trade and free agency period? Well, we know it is unlikely to be the free agency period because of the compensation awarded to Oscar Allen. Traveller, ultra-low carb, made from Australian ingredients, beer for the country that's actually Aussie-owned. Another text from Lisa. Lisa, big fan of West Coast and the show. Hi, Hayes, Dom and team. Guys, the year that the Eagles have put in, with only one win, they should be back on the training track, and only break they should have is Christmas and Boxing Day. Will Schofield should have been talking about why and how Fremantle lost that final instead of carrying on and dramatising about what was happening at the Eagles Awards night and having a go at some who were cheering for the Suns. There's no love lost between the two clubs. How do you feel if you were made to come back? I know you can't. It's mandatory that you got to have a break, but I think all the players would have that eagle eye looking forward to say, righto, we need to come back 100% fit, because nobody is enjoying West Coast down the bottom. Maybe a few Dockers fans, but the players wouldn't be enjoying that and they wouldn't want to do it for too much longer.
No, absolutely not. But in order to get better, geez, you need that break, don't you, Hayes? Like, you'd know what an AFL season does to you. Young blokes start pre-season, early November, and then the season doesn't finish till you hope in September, but late August. So you need that break because your body goes through so much. Blokes need surgeries. People are catching up on their life and everything else and trying to decompress and reflect on their year. And if you just get put back into training without that break, the mental toll that has is massive. And that's not even getting started on what that'll do to people's bodies. So the best thing for players in the AFL is to have that break.
If you got a question for Dom Sheed, shoot it through Host Plus. Wherever you are in life, Host Plus can give you a retirement goal assist. That's a plus issued by Host Plus Pty Limited. Consider the Host Plus PDS and TMD at hostplus.com.au before making a decision. Yeah, get involved. We want to hear from you, and a few people have. They want to ask Dom a question, so you can do that on the text machine, 0487 736 736, or call through. We'd love to hear your voice. The open line's 13 12 55. Greg in Mindari says, Hayes, just putting my hand up. I'm enjoying it. I think he's referring to West Coast being down the bottom. And we've had one. Hi, boys. How do you take that break? Dom spoke about when you have to return in good shape. Can you ever switch off? That's the first question.
I think for that first initial 2 weeks you do, but outside of that, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday mornings are all gone.
So four sessions a week?
Yeah, usually. Yeah, 4 sessions, pending your program. Older players might actually get 3 or 4 weeks off, or blokes coming back from surgery, however that might look. But yeah, you never fully switch off because you still need to watch what you eat and your diet, your sleep, your training times, and are you hitting them? Are you on track?
Do they still do skin folds when you get back? Is that still part of the program?
Nah, not skin folds.
No more skin folds at all.
Nah, we don't do skin folds. But
DEXA machine.
We do DEXA machine, which is a more accurate result, and that shows bone density and a lot of other things as well. So that's what we use now, and we do a few of them a year just to make sure everything's sort of in the right place. But yeah, to answer your question, no, you never fully switch off, I guess. And for that, the biggest thing on your mind, Hayes, and you'd probably have the same thing, is
time trial.
The time trial. That's all you think about. So you don't even think about footy; you think about a time trial. So. Yeah, it's not a nice feeling. Those nerves you get going day one back pre-season, driving in your car at 7 a.m. to the track, it's not nice.
And I imagine it's group training now. Like as many of the boys would try and get together and do those sessions if you can, of course, unless you go back to your hometown or something.
Especially towards the back end of the off-season, boys get together because you do more footy work, change direction where you need numbers, but. Mate, training with others, it makes it easier anyway. So blokes try to get together for sure.
Matthew Pavlich has a gag that he says about me where he reckons I put the GPS on my dog, my old dog Chops, and sent that in as some of the running sessions. But I can guarantee that is not true. I wouldn't do that. I'm too honest to be able to do that. Another question that came through from Luke is, did Campbell Chesser owe the club at least 2 more years? The big news in recent days, Campbell has told the club that he wants to be traded to the Carlton Football Club.
Yeah, that was, he obviously feels like he needs a change, and he's been at West Coast for, 4 years now, so injured, not really getting a game, couldn't find consistency and form, I guess, when he was out there for the most part. But he feels like he needs a change, and, good on him. He's a good young footballer. If he gets his body right and has a good pre-season, I have no doubt. Whether he owed West Coast another 2 years or not, I'm not sure. But I think there wasn't anything put in front of him until, a couple of weeks ago. It's
well, he wasn't a first choice selection. Only injuries really gave him the opportunity late in the year.
Yeah, it's a shame to see him go because he's a good bloke, he's a good kid, and I think he's got a future in the AFL. But we'll see. We
do have a caller, Peter from Dunsborough, on the line. Good day, Peter.
Yeah, good day, Hayes. Good day, Dom. I'm not a West Coast supporter, but anyone that puts a big nail through Collingwood heart is a friend of mine. Okay, so that's well done. One thing I ask, and I ask you older players that are, retiring, you've had Simpson and now Mick Walder. The difference in their ages and in their playing careers at 80s and 90s into 2010, was there a difference in the psychological profile of them both? As in, did they bring up what they did, or how they did it back then and everything else?
Coaches generally. It's a great question, but coaches generally move with the times, right? They adapt to the modern era. Whatever's going, they have to learn or they won't be a good coach. So, yeah, I'm sure, Simo had Dennis Pagan. And I tell you what, Simo was nothing like Pags. There's a few stories about him that Simo used to say. But, coaches are constantly like players. They're evolving and they're getting better and trying to adapt to the game now.
Did he ever introduce some footage of his playing career just quietly into a meeting?
No, he never did. Minnie didn't. Minnie hasn't that I've seen, but Simo would talk about it occasionally. He had a great career, Simo, though. I didn't get to see much of him play, but yeah, it's he told me when I got my 150th game life membership for West Coast, he's like, great work, mate. You're halfway there. I'm like, geez, once he played 300 and something odd games, it was an impressive career.
Mate, started off as a tagger, was a role player, and then by the end was just an accumulator, like a really good centre square player, strong, good clearance player. Liked to kick the ball out of stoppage. He was one of those quick kicks out of stoppage sort of player, but was very good. We had a few battles in our time, Simo and I.
Goes
and as he says, he had my measure a few times in the early part of my career. Dom Hayes, does the club need to agree to the Chesser trade given he's out of contract? Yep, there still needs to be a trade done here, but West Coast lose a bit of leverage because he is out of contract. So I think it'll be outside pick 40. I reckon. I know he was a high draft pick 4 years ago. Normally it's dictated to by the length of contract and the amount of money offered in these deals. 2 years on the table from Carlton suggests it's probably going to be a late pick for mine, and that's unfortunate. But West Coast can try and get the best deal from this situation as well. Just a few other coaches, Luke Webster and Jared Schofield departing. Any surprises that they end up at Subiaco, and also announced yesterday Port Adelaide for Luke Webster?
Yeah, look, in terms of the coaching staff changes, that generally they do a good job of keeping that under wraps because we've got the boys have footy to play. So, Webby's spent a long time at West Coast, 10, 12 years, I'm going to say.
Yep.
And he's been a great coach, but time for him to move on and get more experience elsewhere. And
what's his strength, Luke Webster? Clearly he's wanted, and Port Adelaide, there's a relationship there through Freo with Josh Carr.
Yeah, he's a good relationship builder, but then he's also good at implementing, things that need to be done and handed down to him as a line. That's what I've seen. I never got to work with him in a line role, so I can't speak on specific strengths. But he was always good to have around the club, and the boys always loved him. So I'm sure he'll be do a good job. Where is he going now? Port
Adelaide.
Yeah,
yep.
So all the best to him. And then we got Scully as well, who's gone back to the mighty Subi Lions, which is good news. So taking the head gig there. It'll be good to see what Scully can do going back down there again. So
do you see a difference? Scully's come in having success as the senior coach, and then you've got to fit into the AFL system as an assistant coach compared to some of those other assistant coaches. That's all they know at that particular time is to support their coach, and they haven't been in the hot seat.
Yeah, I know. I could imagine how difficult it would be for those coaches who want the top job and then have to be the assistant. But that's he can add another string to his bow, going back and going and coaching Subi again and turning that team around and have another crack at it, because his role of being a senior coach, in my opinion, is definitely still very, very doable. He's a great coach. He just needs the opportunity. So hopefully the right option pops up for him down the track. But first and foremost, hopefully he gets Subi going again.
Join in any time on the text machine, 0487 736 736, or call 13 12 55. One more segment with the great Dom Sheed. So if you've got a question, send it through, and we are going to take a look at some of the rule changes for next year that look like being implemented. Yeah, plenty of questions coming through. Greg in Collie wants to know, do any players hire an athletics type coach to help them out in their own time, i.e. a sprint coach for the first 10 metres? Did you hire one? It probably doesn't look like it, Dom, that you hired one throughout your career.
No, I used to do a program for a sprint program, and then some studies come out that you can't actually make someone quicker. And I used to do technique work at the club, but once again, the minute fatigue hits, technique goes out the window, and you're chasing a footy, it all goes out the window. So, yeah, boys have a crack though. Like we've had people try to manage injuries and that. They'd head over to Qatar and do a program over there. Otherwise, people will get sort of some personal trainers or some, like the boys get a program from the club. So you can't go too far outside of that because it's tailored to you as an individual.
Do you have any Nathan Fyfe types or Travis Boak types that want to go to those exotic places and do their training?
Yeah, a lot do. Like they'll go on training camps and go surfing and then train and eat well and do all of that. So you can do your program anywhere in the world. So why wouldn't you want to do it in a nice, relaxing spot, right? But I never went on any of them personally.
Rule changes are coming in. They just need to be ratified by the AFL Commission. Last possession rule in between the arcs. Do you like it?
Yeah, that's an idea to speed the game up, I'm assuming.
Well, I think to take it away from the umpires. Right now, they have a subjective decision with insufficient intent.
Yeah.
Where you just take the decision-making out. It either is or it isn't.
Yeah. And, I mean, where the umpires, are getting a lot of feedback is D50 and forward 50. So once they're not there, between the arcs, no one cares.
I would actually like it to be all over the ground. I'm not against it to be all over the ground.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be. I'm interested to see what it does to the game, and it'll change. It'll change a lot.
They believe, from the stats they've seen in the sample, it'll only be 2 more decisions made per game. than what we're currently seeing? Because we're nearly there right now with insufficient intent.
So if the ball gets kicked to a contest and spoiled out of bounds.
That's okay. No, it's not last touch. It's last possession.
Last
so kick
possession.
or mark.
Oh, well, yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, no, it should be fine then. Should be no issues.
The other one, sub rule. Not sure how often you were the sub.
Yeah, debut a few times.
How do you feel? Because if you're not the sub, you probably miss out, so you still get a chance to play, but I think we all agree that it's not a fun position.
No, I mean, it's hard. It's hard as a player to play in that position, that's for sure. You don't know when you're coming on, then when you do come on, everyone expects you to have fresh legs and to run it, but, you're not. That just doesn't happen. So I think it should be scrapped for sure. I never liked it, but albeit still got my match payments when I got the green vest as a young player, and I actually had it a few times later in my career as well, which was it was just good to be in the team. But are they thinking of extending the bench or?
Don't know the details on it yet. I think maybe just going to 4. I don't see the need in getting rid of it and then going to 5.
Yeah, see, I'd be all for just doing 5. I mean, you've already got the cap of rotations. You should be able to have 10 on the bench if you want. You've still got that cap of rotations. 10's probably stretching it, but at the end of the day,
be good for rucks. Be good for 2 rucks if you could have 5. But now we're probably looking at less boundary throw-ins.
Yeah, and I mean, it probably makes match committee a more interesting conversation because you can almost play. Like you've got 4 on the bench and then have a bit of a, what if this happens? All right, well, we've got this next ruck, or, what if he's getting on top of us? Well, we can bring him on. It'll definitely make match committee an easier conversation because the biggest thing I think match committee, sort of argues over, not that I've ever been in it, but is it 1 ruck or 2 rucks? And, you just want all teams to be able to play 2 rucks, and you get the best possible product out of the centre of the ground. So, I'm
a bit more the other way, ruck forwards. I'm a ruck forward guy, or forward ruck, trying to find the ideal one. There's not too many good ones out there, Riley Thilthorpe's the standout at the moment.
Yeah, it's they're hard to find. They're hard to find.
Where you probably think Bailey Williams is a ruck, where I think he's probably more suited to a forward ruck.
Yeah, and I mean, you ask any of these players, you ask any of these forward rucks, they've got a preferred position. What position they think that they are, and then that's the other thing that I'd have to go do.
But I would say most of the time, if they're forward ruck, they're not good enough to be a standalone forward.
Yes. Well, yeah. So they've added another string
because you become too valuable if you have to go. Like there's an argument all the time about Thilthorpe. Is it smart to put him in the ruck? Jumping in against some of the other big rucks in the competition. Hey, boys, what happens then if the ball is kicked out of bounds, last touched inside the 50? Presumably it's just a ball up. Well, I think it would be a boundary throw-in if that was the case inside the 50. So that is coming through from Ben. The other change that I think is going to happen is, call it what you want, play-in tournament, wildcard weekend. But last weekend, the pre-finals bye won't exist anymore. Well, it will for the top 6 teams, but 7 and 10 will play, 8 and 9 will play for the final 2 spots in the top 8.
I'm all for it. I think it's exciting for the game.
Yeah, those 2 games will be fantastic. We loved what we saw last round, Western Bulldogs and Fremantle. That was exciting. But to have teams, particularly this year, we had teams that were done and dusted mathematically from about round 14.
Yeah, and they were sitting 11th on the ladder,
and then what do they do? Yeah. You go to surgery. So it's not great for the competition. So Sydney still would have had a chance to get through. The Western Bulldogs, who were so close, still would have had a chance as well. And Port Adelaide and Carlton and St Kilda would have been close to the mark and involved at least until round 21, 22.
Yeah, it's not a nice position being in no man's land, is it? As a club as a whole, it's what do you do? Are you going after more wins, or do you put good players on ice?
And then tanking becomes an issue.
Yeah, so I'm all for it. If you can give more teams opportunity to make finals and go deeper, then it's better all round, I think.
Not sure if you are across all of the Bobby Hill situation, but he's back at training and there's a bit of a groundswell of support for him coming into the team for the prelim final. What's your feeling about that? The culture element, there's been times where he's missed training, he hasn't been able to complete what everybody else is doing, and you know the culture piece is so important within a football club. But on the other side, Collingwood probably can't win it without that sort of X-factor player in their front half.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, he's got to. No one knows what Bobby Hill's gone through, right? So, missing training and that, that's all one thing. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. But then, as a club, if you're on the same page in a playing group, then I don't see why he shouldn't play if he's fit. And when was the last time he played?
He was a sub probably 5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think he played on the weekend in the scrimmage that they had, so he's back at training. And look, they believe, well, the noise is that if he can complete the 2 weeks of solid training leading into that he's going to be a good chance maybe to come in as the sub. And he would be a good sub, but somebody like a Rowan Steele, who we know from the West, who got picked up mid-season, is going to miss out. And that's where it becomes a tough conversation between the leadership group to say, we think, the spot is there for him, because you can upset a few blokes. If they haven't done the work and they've cheated the system, then you can upset a few blokes.
Yep, and I mean, that's where a couple good weeks of training for Bobby, won't harm him and his chances. But, that'll be a tough conversation for Collingwood over the next couple of weeks. But, he's a handy player. It'd be nice to, he's a Norm Smith medalist and lights it up. So if he's up and about, then I don't see how you leave him out.
Greg says, will it see players letting the ball run out of bounds instead of trying to keep the ball in play? Easy kick, no pressure. Yep, absolutely. I think we'll see a lot of that. There'll be a lot of players striving to touch it if you are the team in possession, and there'll be other teams that just let it roll out of bounds. And we're just going to have to learn to live with that as well. Just some other news getting around today, and we haven't asked Mitch Duncan. He's been appointed as an assistant coach to the West Coast Eagles. You would have played your whole career against Mitch because he played a bit longer than you. Good appointment?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. His resume says it all, I think. And he's a good bloke too, good WA bloke. So it's good to have him back. He's going to be a great inclusion for us. So I'm sure Minnie has some good plans for him.
Sam Draper has told Essendon that he is out. It's between Brisbane and Adelaide, and Brisbane are the favourites for his services. Some delistings at the Melbourne Football Club. Tom Fullerton, Conan Brown, Oliver Seston, Will Verrill, and Marty Hoare. Tough time of year, isn't it, the delisting period? How do you handle as a player when some of your teammates have just been told that their services are no longer required?
I mean, there's always a bit of you always sort of know where your teammates are at contract-wise and that. And
boys are laughing at my expense.
Very good by Jimmy. You sort of always know at the club where your teammates are at and that, and whether they sort of want to talk about it or not.
Do you have a discussion 2 months out with somebody like a Campbell Chesser, not saying him specifically, where you go, mate, how you going, how's contract negotiations going?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you more so going to have that with a player that's on the outside or that hasn't got one, rather than a Harley Reid, who we're all waiting for his signature and he probably wants to keep that in-house? Yeah,
I mean, there's, Harley Reid, that's a completely different level we're talking about. We could probably agree there, Hayes, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily one or the other, but they're your teammates, you're friends with them, you care about them, so it becomes more than just football. It becomes, is my mate going to be putting food on the table next year, and that'd be a hard thing for some of these players to, wrap their head around and then go out and have to perform at their highest level to earn that, and to stay within team structures and not become selfish, and all these things come into it. And, generally the boys are pretty good at recognising where each other's at and respecting that and trying to help where they can, because no one likes to see someone lose their job.
Ben says, sorry boys, just to clarify, if the attacking team kick the ball inside the forward 50 with no intent to keep the ball in, is it currently deliberate out of bounds? If that changes to being a ball in, then that's an advantageous tactic for the attacking team. I think insufficient intent will still be there inside the arcs. It will still be there for the one where, a player can tap the ball over the line. Yep. That will still be there. The old deliberate, let's call it deliberate or insufficient intent, that will still exist. Yep. Ben, is my understanding. Tasmania, one quick one before you go. So they're going to offer a golden ticket opportunity for 2 spots available for the players that go and support in the VFL programs over the next 2 years. Do you like that? We haven't seen that from the other clubs.
A golden ticket. There you go. Oh, good on them. Something different.
Would you be enticed to do that if you were 26 and delisted?
I don't see why you wouldn't have a look at it at least. Hayes. Yeah, you'd be silly not to, but how good.
Don't forget, give us your best ideas. Traveller, ultra low carb, made from Australian ingredients, beer for the country. It's actually Aussie owned. Thanks for your time, Dom. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
There he is, Dom Sheed. You can join in anytime on the text machine, 0487 736 736, or give us a call. 13 12 55 is the number.